Welcome back to CIA Declassified. We're looking at a weapon that sounds like it was dreamed up by a gothic novelist on a caffeine bender. We're talking about the Bat Bomb legacy. Before there were drones, before there were cruise missiles, there was Project X-Ray. The plan was simple: take thousands of Mexican free-tailed bats, strap tiny incendiary devices to their chest, and drop them over Japan. The bats would roost in the wooden attics of the cities, the timers would go off, and boom, instant firestorm. But while the Army and Navy eventually walked away from the flaming mammals, the newly formed CIA kept the files. They saw something the others missed: the perfect, undetectable delivery vehicle. The original project was the brainchild of a dental surgeon named Lytle Adams. He actually convinced Eleanor Roosevelt it was a good idea. During a test at Carlsbad Army Airfield, some of the armed bats escaped and roosted under a fuel tank, burning the entire base to the ground. This proved the weapon worked, but it was too effective for the military to control. After World War II, the CIA's Office of Scientific Intelligence took over the research. They pivoted from destruction to surveillance. The new goal: Project Night Watch. They wanted to see if bats could carry miniaturized microphones and transmitters, the first living bugs. A quote from the CIA Office of Research and Development: "The bat represents a unique aerodynamic platform. Its ability to navigate in total darkness via echolocation makes it superior to any mechanical drone currently in development." End quote. In the 1960s, the agency researched biorhythmic steering. They attempted to use brain implants similar to the Electric Dog Project to guide bats towards specific radio frequencies. They hoped a bat could home in on a Soviet radar station and roost on its antenna. The CIA consulted with renowned bat experts to find the most resilient species. They settled on the big brown bat because of its ability to carry nearly half its body weight in equipment. Declassified logs from a faculty in Warrenton, Virginia, describe guano mapping. The CIA studied the chemical composition of bat droppings to track if bats were roosting near secret chemical or nuclear plants, essentially using the bats as environmental sensors. A quote from a declassified lab report from 1964. Subject 4 Bakers successfully carried a 2-gram dummy sensor for a duration of 4 hours. The acoustic signature of the flight remains indistinguishable from natural patterns. End quote. The CIA experimented with timed released canisters. These were pods dropped from planes at high altitude that would slowly warm up, waking the hibernating bats inside just as they reached the target city's airspace. One experimental branch of the project looked into visual camouflage. They actually tried to breed bats with specific fur patterns to make them invisible against the gray concrete of Soviet bunkers. The agency invested in many harnesses made of surgical-grade silk and elastic, designed to detach automatically once the battery on the sensor died, leaving no evidence of CIA involvement if the bat was caught. In the late 1950s, the CIA collaborated with the Army Chemical Corps at Fort Detrick to determine if bats could be used as biological vectors. The focus was whether the animals could naturally carry and spread synthetic pathogens without showing symptoms themselves, essentially creating a self-replicating delivery system. During the transition to the CIA, researchers discovered that bats are surprisingly resistant to high G-forces. This led to experiments where bats were placed in deployment shells fired from high-altitude balloons, testing their ability to survive the descent and begin roosting in hostile territory. A quote from Dr. Lytle Adams, writing to the White House to save his project, he said, "Think of it as thousands of fires breaking out simultaneously, each one starting in the most inaccessible part of a structure. No fire department in the world can defend against a swarm." End quote. The CIA's Office of Technical Service, OTS, developed a special bat glue. This was a non-toxic, pressure-sensitive adhesive used to bond miniature transmitters to the bat's fur, designed to degrade and fall off after 48 hours to ensure the animal wasn't permanently burdened. Records show that the CIA's interest in bats extended to their immune systems. They were fascinated by the bat's ability to host viruses that are lethal to humans, such as rabies, without dying. This research eventually branched into defensive bioshielding for human operatives. As with all things winged and weird, the most current files on the bat legacy are heavily censored. The heaviest redactions appear in the deployment logs from the late 1970s. Speculation by former agency contractors suggests these pages contain details of Project Cave-In. The theory is that the CIA successfully used bats to carry microtags, radioactive isotopes, into deep cave systems in Afghanistan to map hidden bunkers. The redactions hide the location of these caves and the hot sensors still buried there. Further speculation surrounds targeted dissemination. Conspiracy theorists believe the redacted sections cover the use of bats to spread behavioral pheromones over enemy gatherings. The idea was to spray a crowd with a chemical that induced lethargy or fear, delivered by a swarm of bats that everyone would assume was just part of the night air. There's a persistent theory that the redactions hide a Cold War vampire project. Strictly speculation, but some believe the CIA looked into the use of vampire bats to collect blood samples from high-ranking foreign targets while they slept in order to monitor their health or DNA. Conspiracy theorists often point to the genetic modification chapters. The speculation is that the CIA didn't just train bats, they tried to edit them to have longer lifespans and better hearing. The blacked out text might hide the fact that we have engineered colonies still living in the wild today. Some believe the bat bomb legacy isn't dead at all, but evolved into bio-drones, mechanical bats so realistic they can't be distinguished from the real thing. The speculation is that the redactions covered the transition to synthetic phase, where the animal was replaced by a machine. Finally, there is some speculation that the CIA's interest in bats was actually to cover to study echolocation anomalies reported near sites of suspected UAP activity. If the bats were reacting to something the radars couldn't see, the CIA wanted to know why. There is intense speculation that the bat bomb research was secretly shared with the Israeli army during the 1980s. The theory suggests they developed a night swarm to neutralize border sensors, using bats to trigger false alarms and exhaust the security team's response time. A common conspiracy theory suggests that the redacted portions of the 1990s files detail environmental conditioning. Speculation holds that the CIA released conditioned bat colonies into certain European cities, trained to congregate at specific high-value government buildings to act as permanent organic eavesdropping network. Some researchers speculate that the bat bomb project was actually the precursor to smart dust. The theory is that the agency realized that if you could make a bat carry a bomb, you could eventually make a fly carry a microphone, leading to the Insectahopper programs. There is a dark theory that the redactions in the biological stability section cover a failed experiment where bats were used to deliver prions. Speculation suggests that the CIA wanted a weapon that would only affect livestock, causing a famine in a target country without harming the human population directly. Finally, some speculate that the Bat Legacy redactions hide the true origin of certain unexplained sound blast incidents in the 1960s. The theory is that the CIA developed a way to make bats emit a synchronized ultra-high frequency sonic burst that could shatter glass or incapacitate a human target from a distance. Was the Bat Bomb Legacy a success? As a weapon of war, no. The atomic bomb made the bat bomb obsolete before it could be deployed. But as an intelligence project, it was quite a triumph. It taught the CIA how to miniaturize electronics to an extreme degree and how to use the natural world as a mask for high-tech surveillance. A quote from a former ORD scientist: "We didn't need the bats to burn down Tokyo. We needed them to hear what was happening inside the Kremlin. In that regard, the legacy of X-ray lived on in every bug we ever planted." End quote. The Nightwing Chronicles led to breakthroughs that we still see in the field today. Some of those operational breakthroughs are extreme miniaturization. The sensors developed for bat packs were the predecessors to the modern spy bug. Acoustic navigation. The agency's study of bat sonar helped refine the low-altitude terrain following radar used by cruise missiles. Biological cloaking. The concept of the hidden in plain sight sensor, using an animal to mask a machine, is now a standard agency tactic. Passive tracking. The guano analysis technique became a foundational part of environmental intelligence now used to track nuclear runoff globally. The bat bomb legacy is a reminder that the agency will look anywhere for an edge, even in the darkest caves and the weirdest corners of nature. They took a dentist's crazy dream and turned it into a master class in covert surveillance. Thanks for listening. Next time we examine the ultimate bad day at the office, the CIB, Central Intelligence Bulletin, specific days when the world almost ended. We're diving into the daily morning reports delivered to the president on the days when the red clock was at 1 minute to midnight. From the Cuban Missile Crisis to the 1983 Able Archer incident, we look at the notes that prove we're all living on borrowed time. Join us for the Doomsday Ledger. In the meantime, I'll see you in the archives.